morning, everyone. How are you all doing? Good morning. Welcome to the regular scheduled meeting of the Birmingham City Council for July 14th, 2020. We're going to have our invocation by Councilor Hoyt and our Pledge of Allegiance by Councilor Smitherman. If everyone could please stand.
Say good morning to all of you. To the Honorable Mayor and certainly to this council and those who are gathered here. In Deuteronomy, the 31st chapter, and beginning with the 5th verse, I wanted to read for your hearing. It said, "The Lord will deliver them to you, and you must do to them that I have commanded you." And this is the encouragement part. It says, "Be strong and courageous, and do not be afraid or terrified because of them. For the Lord your God goes with you. He'll never leave you nor forsake you." I just thought that was something that we needed to hear. People need to hear in the space that we're in right now. There's a lot of loneliness. There's a lot of isolation that takes place in the season that we're in with the pandemic. And people need to be reassured that God is with us, never to leave us, never to forsake us. And so I know we're relying on a lot of different things, but from my perspective, I think it's important for us to rely on God's word, because what I've discovered, whatever God's word can do, he can do, and whatever he can do, his word can do. Let us bow our heads. Eternal God, our Father, we thank you this day. God, we give you praise, we give you glory, we give you honor for your majesty. God, we come this morning, Lord, asking that you remind us of who you are and what you are able to do. And the scripture says that you could do anything but fail. But God, you have given us a promise that is in perpetuity, and for us to know that you are always with us. And even though that we might experience loneliness, we are reminded that we are never alone. And so God, as leaders of this city, as citizens of this city, God, we ask that you continue to remind us, Lord, rivet in our spirits and our hearts, that you are God who will not forsake him. And God, we ask that you continue to heal those persons who have experienced and enduring COVID-19. We pray for the first responders, those who have the responsibility of waiting and administering medicine. And God, we're reminded that doctors do have the ability to administer medicine, but the healing is still left up to you. And so, God, we ask that you would dispatch your healing angels into these hospitals and places and nursing homes and living assistant facilities and all, Lord, for all have been impacted by this dreaded disease. But God, we know that on the other side of this, Lord, there is a cure. And God, you would put it in the hearts and the minds and the spirit of men, impart to them wisdom as to how we go from here. So God, we thank you, Lord. We thank you for a city that is conscious enough to say that we need to do better with respect to covering, and so that we can save lives. This is bigger than any party, bigger than any government. Only God who wills, only God who allows. And God, we know that you would will us back together once again. But we thank God for this time that we have to reflect on you and your majesty. And God, we just thank you this day. These and other blessings we ask in Jesus' precious name we pray. Amen.
Salute the flag. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, and liberty and justice for all.
Good morning, Mr. Clerk. How are you doing, sir?
Great, sir. How are you?
Doing fine.
All right. Council President Pro Tem Alexander.
Here.
Councilmember Hilliard.
Present.
Councilmember Hoyt. Present. Councilmember O'Quinn. Good morning, sir. Councilmember Smitherman. Good morning. Councilmember Williams.
Good morning.
Good morning. Councilmember Woods. Present. Councilmember Abbott. Present. President Parker.
Good morning. Good morning. Minutes are not ready from February 18th through July 7th, 2020. Not for sure if the mayor is outside or on his way in, but I guess once the mayor comes in, we'll continue on until the mayor comes in, and then we will recognize him when he comes in. Okay. Mr. Clark, I guess we move on to the consent agenda?
Okay. The consent starts on page 2 with items 2 and 3. Page 3, we have items 4, 5, and 6 on consent. Page 4, we have items 7, 8, and 9 on consent. On page 5, we have items 10, 11, 12, and 13 on consent. Page 6, we have items 14, 15, and 16 on consent. Page 7, items 17, 18, and 19 are on consent. Page 8, items 20, 21, and 22 are on consent. Page 9, items 23, 24, and 25 are on consent. Page 10, we have items 26, 27, 28, and 29 on consent. Page 11, items 30, 31, 32, 33, and 34 on consent. Page 12, we have items 35, 36, 37, 38, and 39 on consent. Page 13, items 40, 41, 42, 43, and 44 are on consent. Page 14, we have items 45, 46, 47, 48, and 49 on consent. Page 15, we have items 50, 51, 52, and 53 on consent. Page 16, items 54 and 55 are on consent. And we have, it looks like 3 addendum items?
I think it's
4, I'm sorry.
Yeah, 4.
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay. All right. Council Williams, we'll start with you and just work around.
All right.
Real quick.
Thank you, Mr. President. Can we add item 58, 59, 60, 61, and 62, please? So that's 58 through 62.
Okay. All right. Councilor Wood. You good? Okay, Councilor Smith, and we'll just kind of rotate and go. Councilor Smitherman?
Can we take item 20 off consent?
Okay.
Remove
All
it.
right. Remove item 20, yes, sir. All right. President Pro Tem,
I'm good, thank you, Mr.
Okay.
President.
Councilor Hilliard, Dr. Quinn, everybody's good?
Good.
Councilor Hoyt, everybody?
Yeah, I think it's one. We'll go to someone else now.
Okay. Councilor Abbott.
I'm good.
You okay? Okay. All right. Councilor. Just wait.
26.
So 26. Okay. All right. So that's 26. Okay. All right. Let me read the tag. All items designated as consent are routine and non-controversial and will be approved by one motion. No separate discussion of these items will be permitted unless a council member, the mayor, or citizen interested in the public hearing so request. If so, such item or items will revert to its normal place on the agenda order of business. All matters of permanent operation will be read. All other matters will be announced by reading the item number only. All public hearings will be announced. So with that,
Motion to approve is amended.
Second.
Okay, Councilmember Williams and that Councilmember Smitherman, second.
yes.
All right, voting should be open. Councilmember Alexander.
Aye.
Pro Tem Alexander. Councilmember Hilliard.
Aye.
Councilmember Hoyt.
Yes.
Councilmember O'Quinn.
Yes.
Councilmember Smitherman. Councilmember Williams.
Aye.
Councilmember Woods. Councilmember Abbott. President Parker.
All right, okay, the consent agenda is approved. Let's go ahead and go through items on the agenda. And then there are two presentations once we go through the items on the agenda. So there are two presentations. So I just wanted to make sure from the from two groups. You ready?
All right,
Yeah.
first item, item 1. An ordinance to further amend the zoning district map of the city of Birmingham, case number ZAC 2020-6, to change zone district boundaries from CB2 to QI1 in order to convert the existing building into a package distribution center, filed by Shoal Engineering, representing the owner, Edwin B. Lumpkin Jr., for property located at 7680 Crestwood Boulevard and situated in the northwest quarter, section 26, Township 17, South Range 2, West Birmingham. The hearing of all interested parties. Motion, please.
Move the item.
Second.
Good morning.
Morning.
How you doing?
Chair?
Yes, sir.
Calvin Abram, zoning administrator for the city of Birmingham. What you have before you is ZAC 2020, number 6, an application to change the zone district boundary from CB2, which is Contingency General Business District, to QI1, which is from Qualified Light Manufacturing District, in order to convert the existing building into a package distribution center, filed by Shoal Engineering, representing the owner, Edwin Lumpkin Jr. The proposed use is package distribution center, property abutting land uses. The subject property is the former Century Plaza Mall and is currently zoned CB2. Abutting the subject property to the north is Interstate 20. To the south is the Village East Shopping Center, zone CB2. To the east of the property is Family Leisure, Birmingham, also zone CB2. West of the subject property is the Aldi Grocery Store, zone CB2, and undeveloped land, zone CR5 and R3. The applicant's proposal: the proposed building will be a single-story industrial building. It will provide for automobile and delivery, van storage, parking, truck unloading, and van staging. The proposed facility is designed for a package delivery service. The packages arriving in the facility are pre-packaged in cardboard boxes and labeled for shipping within the local neighborhood and area surrounding the facility. The facility will allow residents to receive their orders within 1 to 2 hours of completing their orders online. The facility will contain around 11,000 square feet of office space and will operate 24 hours per day, 7 days a week. The city's long-range land use plan identifies the property as general commercial. The general commercial category allows for commercial services, general and large tenant retail, restaurants, and food stores. The applicant's proposed use would be consistent with the development along the Crestwood Boulevard corridor. However, the proposed rezoning request is not consistent with the long-range land use plan due to the industrial designation. The zoning ordinance, the applicant's site plan shows multiple parking lots surrounding the new building. The parking requirement for the office's use is 28 spaces. The parking requirement for the warehouse is 95 spaces. The site plan shows over 1,500 parking spaces. The excess parking spaces would be allowed due to the applicant utilizing low-impact development techniques to the site, which has been confirmed by Stormwater staff. Traffic engineering identified all requests and concerns they have identified have been addressed by the applicant. The neighborhood recommendation, the Eastwood Neighborhood Association held a teleconference meeting on May 7th, 2020 to review the proposed project and voted to not recommend approval of the request. The vote was 5 approved and 6 denied. The city stormwater administrator staff reviewed the applicant's proposal, and if the request is approved, recommends the following. The site shall reduce impervious area and comply with the city stormwater ordinance. The zoning advisory committee met at its regularly scheduled meeting on June 2nd, 2020, and voted to recommend approval of the applicant's request, subject to the Q conditions recommended by city staff. The Planning and Zoning Committee met at a special call meeting on June 3rd, 2020, and voted on a 1-week delay to engage the community to review the proposed Q conditions. The Planning and Zoning Committee met at a special call meeting on June 10th, 2020, and voted to recommend approval of the request, including the following Q conditions. 1, no delivery vehicles larger than 30 feet shall enter or exit the site from a Puerto Madrid Boulevard. 2, wayfinding signage shall be displayed for the visitors to the site. 3, tractors with or without trailers shall only enter and exit from the westernmost driveway to the site, which is a signalized controlled access. 4, the applicant shall comply with the Eastwood sign guidelines. 5, these following uses are prohibited: contractor yard, dairy factory, distillery artisanal, mini storage warehouse, private club, opioid replacement therapy treatment facility, animal kennel, wrecker impound lot, adult establishment, off-premise sign, payday lawn, title lawn, pawn shop, broadcast tower, and broadcast satellite. This concludes my presentation.
Okay. All right, thank you. This will open up if there's anyone here to speak for or against the proposed item.
Yes, Mr. President.
Okay, just real quick, is it just two of you all? Is anyone else? I'm just trying to make sure if we want to practice. So it's just the two of you all think? Okay, go ahead. Yeah, you have 3 minutes.
Thank you, Mr.
Yes,
President.
sir.
I'll be brief. Mr. Hoyt, thank you for the wonderful invocation this morning. I appreciate it very much. That's very moving. My name is Martin Evans, 2001 Park Place North, Suite 540, Birmingham, Alabama, 35203. I represent the developer. As Mr. Abrams pointed out, we're seeking to rezone the property from CB2 to QI1 for a modern state-of-the-art last mile distribution facility. This is the old Century Plaza Mall in Eastwood, and we have to go to I1 because that's the first zoning classification that expressly allows for our use. But we're not surrounded by any residential uses. There are only commercial uses, so I believe that this proposed land use will be compatible. But also we have agreed to impose a number of Q conditions that Mr. Abrams set out to allay any concerns about incompatible adjacent land uses. This is in a very highly developed area. As was mentioned, it's bound by I-20 on the north and Puerto Madrid to the east. And this was formerly housed over 100 tenants, and it closed in 2009. So this property has been, totally unproductive since that time. It's been an eyesore on the community, and it really needs to be repurposed. But there's no market anymore for this to be another mall. There have been a number of unsuccessful efforts in the last 10 years to redevelop this property. However, it's a very large project and a very large undertaking, and there's only a specific type of business that can go in and redevelop this type of property of this size. For instance, there's asbestos throughout the existing structure. There'll be over $1.5 million in cost to remediate the asbestos. That's a significant cost for anybody to undertake, and so it's just a difficult project and presents its own challenges. For properties like this, cities often have to incentivize developers to redevelop, but I'm happy to say that we have not asked for any incentives and will not be asking for any incentives. This is a tremendous opportunity for the city to revitalize this use. There will be over 300 new jobs created. There'll be additional revenue brought to the city, and this will also allow for Birmingham residents to receive their goods faster and cheaper. There's a very large investment being made in this area by the developer. We believe that the tide will raise all of the property values in the area, and we've already spent a lot of time and money on engineering, and we're ready to get moving. We've received a number of preliminary approvals from both city departments and state departments, and I have with me today Neil Moskowitz, who's from the development team, as well as Walter Scholl, one of the preeminent civil engineers in the area, who can speak to any specifics that y'all may have. Last thing I want to mention is thank y'all a lot. I know y'all been going through a lot with the pandemic, with protests. There's been a lot on y'all's plate, and for the city to still allow businesses to come and request rezoning like this without any hiccups, it says a lot about the commitments y'all have made. I know, Councilor Williams, you've attended, I think, every hearing and every meeting that we've had and spent hours and hours and hours and found the time to concentrate on this project, and I've greatly appreciated it. So.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Ma'am, good morning. How you doing? Good morning. If you state your name, you have 3 minutes. Okay.
My name is Elaine Kennard. I'm Vice President of the Eastwood Neighborhood Association, and I came to represent our vote for not permanently changing the zoning, because a zone of industrial in a neighborhood is going to negatively impact our property values. That's just the fact. People don't like to live next to industrial zoned things. And I think that if we make a zoning variance so it's not a permanent change, that would satisfy everybody so that they could do their project, but after that it wouldn't necessarily be another industrial thing. Because right now we have the VA building a mental hospital in our neighborhood. And a lot of people in my neighborhood have concerns about that because they're building a mental hospital right across the 2-lane street from houses, right across the 2-lane street from a school. And nobody even told us, let alone talk to us about any concerns we might have, because they didn't have to, because the zoning allowed it. So once this property is permanently changed, I mean, this warehouse isn't going to be there forever, 2 years, 5 years, certainly not 10 years, because nothing lasts that long. So what's going to come next? I don't know, and they wouldn't have to tell us. It could just show up. They wouldn't have to ask us. They wouldn't have to address any concerns, because they wouldn't have to. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Is that everyone from the public that wanted to speak? Okay. Councilor Abbott, I think you're first here, and we'll just tip anybody's.
And I just wanted to ask a question of the developers' representatives. I'm not sure which one needs to answer the question, but I know that Century Plaza is an enormous structure made out of huge, oversized brick, and I want to know about recycling of those construction materials. Are y'all just going to haul everything to the dump, or will you be recycling the items that can be reused?
My name is Neil Moskowitz with Stormwater Financial Group. So we are hiring, we're like hiring brick construction to do the demolition. They do most of the demolition in the area. And they do have a contract to salvage as much as possible from that building, and certainly there's a lot of brick there, and you know that it costs more money to go haul off that brick and store it somewhere than it would cost to repurpose it. So they are currently researching what they can do to get some value out of that brick. There's a lot of brick in that building. It can't be used as straight brick to build a new building that looks exactly like that. It's 50-year-old brick, but it is good materials, and we're looking at using some of it to fill underneath the new building. You know, if you crushed it, and you could use it to fill underneath there, but there's a lot of rock out on that site as well, and that's what Walter Scholl is working on, trying to balance that site and use as much of the materials that are there now to put underneath the building. But yeah, no, the plan isn't to go haul it off into a yard somewhere and have 750,000 square feet of brick sitting there. That's about how much brick there is.
Yeah, and the only other question is the upper parking area that used to be the overflow parking at Christmas. Will that be reused as part of the business, or will it be employee parking, or will it just be empty?
It will be van parking. We're going to strip the asphalt there and repave it and run conduit up there to allow for future electric vehicle parking. All of the vans on this, the 1,500 spaces they mentioned are all going to be EV compatible in the future. So we're going to renovate that elevator structure to allow those people to then take the elevator down to the building, but that will be one of the main van parking areas.
Well, I said that was my last question, but there was one other one, and that is, will the facility be secured? Will there be a fence around it, or will there be security to keep anything from happening there that we don't want to have happen?
The building is highly secured. We have over $1 million allowance in there for the tenant security that they do on all their buildings. There will be a gate and fence access to the site.
An attractive gate.
We have to meet the Eastwood signage guidelines and all the code, but whatever has to meet code, correct?
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. President.
Yes, ma'am. Councilor Hoyt, somebody have any questions on this? Councilor Quinn? Anybody else? Yes, sir.
Did I hear correctly that this facility is going to have solar component, solar panels, that there will be some on-site power generation to help augment the electric needs? Is that accurate, or did I just imagine that?
Undetermined yet. They have in many markets. They do. Our friends out in Seattle do. The code requires solar components, and they usually put those. There's these big van canopies on either side of the building, and they put the solar on top of there. I do not believe in the southeast they typically use solar. It's mainly out in the west, but it's something they are changing and exploring at all times. I don't believe it's currently spec'd in our plans right now.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Thank you, Councilor Hilliard. Council President Quinn.
No question, thank you.
Alexander, I'm sorry, please forgive me. President Pro Tem Alexander. I was looking at Dr. Quinn and speaking to you, so please forgive me. Councilor Smitherman, Councilor Woods. All right, Councilor Williams, closes out.
All right, thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to thank the Vice President of one of my neighborhoods, Eastwood, Ms. Kennard, for being here. While I understand that this did not pass the neighborhood association after one member changed her mind, I will say this. My office has received, and thank you, India, for answering all these calls, because I know that she's the one that's had to answer all of them. But my office has received tremendous support for this project, and I think that, you know, anytime that we can further move in an economic development way, both adding jobs as well as furthering that corridor so that redevelopment can continue to occur at no cost to the city of Birmingham, it's a win-win-win for the taxpayers, for those that will be filling those 300 approximate full-time jobs, 1,600 part-time jobs, as well as bringing a service to this city that we currently do not have. It's something that that last mile logistics is looked at with larger corporations that come into the city of Birmingham, and so it is something that I think that we can all be excited for coming to the city. Thank you, Mr. President.
All right, thank you. All right, Mr. Clerk, we're ready.
All right. Council President Pro Tem Alexander.
Aye.
Councilmember Hilliard.
Aye.
Councilmember Hoyt.
Yes.
Councilmember O'Quinn.
Yes.
Councilmember Smitherman.
Aye.
Councilmember Williams.
Aye.
Councilmember Woods.
Yes.
Councilmember Abbott.
Aye.
President Parker.
Yes.
All right.
That item passes. Next item.
Should be item
Clerk.
20. And item 20 is on page 8. A resolution authorizing the mayor to execute a lease, master services, and purchasing agreement with Axon Enterprises Incorporated, under which the city of Birmingham will lease and use Axon devices and services detailed in the quote, such as body cameras, Axon fleet, officer safety plans, technology assurance plans, and TASER 7 plans for use by the Birmingham Police Department, the Finance Department, and the BPD asserts that the lease term for the body cameras and match the estimated useful life of the assets covered in the lease in the amount of $7,455,555 for a period not to exceed 5 years, in accordance with the Code of Alabama 1975, Section 41-1657F. The city will accept the services and use as needed at the police department to promote the health and welfare of the city employees. Motion, please.
Move the item.
Okay.
I'll just
Attorney King. Attorney King, you have somebody to speak on it. Okay. Well, no, I didn't know if there was a presentation. I didn't see you out there, Mr. Mayor, so I was asking Attorney King, who was the second, who was from your office. Okay. Councilor Smitherman, I know it was taken off the agenda. You have.
Just, Mayor Wolfen, you could just briefly explain the importance of these body cameras and why they have to be passed right now.
Good morning to the entire council, Mr. President. Good to see everyone. I first would like to start by saying that we followed this council's process by taking it not before one but two committees. So it passed out of Public Safety Committee. It passed out of Budget and Finance Committee. Short version is that I want everyone to consider the cell phone you have in front of you. Whether you were with AT&T or Sprint or anyone else, you've probably been with them 5, 20, 15 years. You have upgrades you do at a minimum every 2 to 5 years. As it relates to our body cams, being connected to if the taser is deployed, as it relates to our dash cams, as it relates to our vehicles, all of that, this is an upgrade from a contractual relationship we've been in for quite some time. The next contract is over the 5 years. And the most important thing, we don't need a lapse or want a lapse in making sure if there's an issue where an officer is involved or a resident is involved, we need to make sure that information is captured. That concludes my report.
Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else have any questions? Councilor Hoyt will start.
Good morning, Mr. Mayor. I've had several residents to call me yesterday, in particular, 41st Street. They're still parking those 18-wheelers. That car wash there on Avenue I and 41st Street is becoming a dope haven, and it just looks ugly coming in there. This is where I come home every day. And got a call from Thomas yesterday, and we'll be sending you this information. And I think we've, Mr. Datcher spoke to a Mrs. Gooden that's in.
Is this a part of the item? You're tying it back into a question about the item? Yeah, we're on the item. Yeah,
I thought he was speaking. Huh?
No, what happened, because the item came up, I asked Attorney King. I did not see anyone else from the mayor as to if there was going to be a presentation or anything, and the mayor came in to talk about the particular item.
Okay.
Okay, so we're on the item.
I'm sorry.
Okay, we're on the item. So does anybody have any questions about the item? And the mayor's comments were tailored towards item number 20 after Council Smitherman had to ask the question. Yes, ma'am.
I did want to say that I think body cameras and vehicle cameras are the best thing that's happened to policing in my lifetime, because there's no more he said, she said. Everybody can see. So this is an item that I can happily vote for. Okay. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Any other questions from the council about item 20? Okay. All right. Ready to vote.
Council Pro Tem Alexander.
Aye.
Councilmember Hill.
Aye.
Councilmember Hoyt.
Yes.
Councilmember Quinn.
Aye.
Councilmember Smitherman.
Aye.
Councilmember Williams?
Yes.
Councilmember Woods?
Yes.
Councilmember Abbott?
Aye.
President Parker.
Aye, okay, that item passes. Next item.
26, which is on page 10, a resolution approving and authorizing the mayor to execute a temporary construction easement agreement with the Board of Trustees of the University of Alabama for the University of Alabama at Birmingham, under which the city will obtain a temporary construction easement from UAB on property located in the vicinity of the intersection of 4th Avenue South and 18th Street South, Birmingham, for certain construction activities in connection with the bus rapid transit project for a fee of $10. Motion, please.
I move approval.
Second.
Okay, Councilor Abbott, President Pro Tem Alexander. Councilor Hoyt?
Yeah, I just wanted it read. People need to know what we're doing.
Okay.
The BRT is important.
Okay, all right. Thank you all. All right, we're ready to vote. We're ready to vote.
Okay. Councilor Pro Tem Alexander?
Aye.
Councilmember Hilliard?
Aye.
Councilmember Hoyt?
Yes.
Councilmember Quinn?
Yes.
Councilmember Smitherman? Aye. Councilmember Williams is out. Councilmember Woods?
Yes.
Councilmember Abbott?
Aye.
President Parker.
Yes, that item passes. We can move on. And what we will do is, Council Hoyt, if you could bring a report or ask, as we have our committee hold, that could be an update from the bus rapid. If you want to do that through your committee, or
It
just
needs to be an
overall.
update. Well,
Okay.
Yeah, it needs to be one.
If that's, so we can just get a complete update on where we are overall. So we'll work with you, Council Hoyt, and your committee on the update. Okay. All right, cool, that's good. Mr. Clark?
Item 56 on page 16. A resolution setting a public hearing August the 18th, 2020 to consider the adoption of a resolution sending to the vacation of 5,264 square feet of alleyway perpendicular to Martin Luther King Jr. Drive, parallel to and between Heritage Lane and Mason Avenue on behalf of Woodland Park Church of Christ owner, so that Woodland Park Church of Christ can consolidate their property and construct a new parking area. Case number SUB 2020-13.
I move approval.
Council Abbott, Council Smitherman.
Okay. All right, voting should start. Councilmember Pro Tem, Councilmember Alexander.
Aye.
Pro Tem Alexander. Councilmember Hilliard.
Aye.
Councilmember Hoyt.
Yes.
Councilmember Quinn.
Yes.
Councilmember Smitherman.
Aye.
Councilmember Williams absent. Councilmember Woods.
Yes.
Councilmember Abbott.
Aye.
President Parker.
Aye, okay.
All right.
That item, is that everything?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Clark? All right,
57. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry?
Item 57.
Okay.
It's a vacation, I think. Yep. Setting a vacation.
Okay.
Item 57. A resolution setting a public hearing August 18th, 2020 to consider the adoption of a resolution assenting to the vacation of 1,038 square feet of subsurface rights and 1,038 square feet of airspace along 18th Street South, along 3rd Avenue South, and Block 150 Alley between 1,038 square feet of subsurface rights and 1,038 square feet of airspace along 18th Street South, along 3rd Avenue South, and Block 150 Alley on behalf of 318th Street LLC, Apple 10 Hospitality Ownership Incorporated T5 LLC, and Wells Fargo Bank, NA 318th Street LLC, Apple 10 Hospitality Ownership Incorporated T5 LLC, and Wells Fargo Bank, NA owner, so that the developer can construct balconies on the proposed apartment building. Case number SUB 2020-20.
So move.
Council Smitherman, Councilor Williams.
Councilor Williams. Okay, voting should be open. Council Pro Tem Alexander.
Aye.
Councilmember Hilliard.
Aye.
Councilmember Hoyt.
Yes.
Councilmember Quinn.
Yes.
Councilmember Smitherman. Councilmember Williams. Councilmember Woods.
Yes.
Councilmember Abbott.
Aye.
President Parker.
Okay, aye, okay, that item passes. All right, is that everything, Mr. Clerk?
Yes, sir.
Okay, all right, we need to suspend the rules. We have two presentations. They're going to be brief. One is from the Fraternal Order of Police. I don't know if they're out in the hallway. After we do these brief presentations, then we will make our announcements and get out of here. Are they out? I don't know if they can hear me out there with the Fraternal Order. They made a hey, good morning, how you doing? Good morning. Got 3 minutes, but good morning, okay.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen of the council, Mr. President. I wanted to thank you today for allowing me to come to speak to you. After speaking with several of our members of the police department, I spoke with members of the fire department and with members of Public Works. One of the issues that we wanted to bring to your attention, I know currently funds are going to be an issue in the upcoming year with COVID and the losses that the city is taking. But one thing we wanted the city council to be aware of, that some folks, I don't know if you know exactly how the merit steps work, but we have employees, specifically police, fire, Public Works, that are on that merit system. When they lose the merit steps, they cannot be given back next year. The city comes up with the average of what that job is worth. You're paid on a 10-step program. You work to get up to that step 10, and then once you're at that step 10, then for the rest of your career, that's what you're going to make at that topped-out step. But if you take one of the steps from some of our new hires, some of the folks that are on this system, you take that at step 1 for an entry-level police officer, that's going to cost them over their career $21,361.60. To the city, it appears as a merit step. That merit step pushes that officer $21,000 back. That's basically that officer is giving to the city 9 months of work that they're not going to get, that other folks ahead of them or within this departments have already received. If they're topped out on the merit system, taking away the merits doesn't affect all employees. When you give a COLA, which is a cost of living allowance, that goes to all employees. But taking the merits only affects a minute number of employees. It doesn't affect any of the positions that are appointed. It only disproportionately affects a small number of your employees throughout the system. And the reason the city does the merit system is to save the city. It's to build the employee up, to make sure that that employee is going to work for the city. If the employee performs their work adequately, they're given an appraisal with a performance appraisal that is positive. They're supposed to get that step, but they can never get to the top of that ladder where they're supposed to be for that average, that medium income, if those steps are taken. And when they're taken, they cannot be given back next year. You can only get one step per year. Several years ago, we had lost 2 years in a row, and those steps can never be given back. With the crime in the city, as far as it relates to public safety, the crime in the city, we're down 27%. Your police, your firefighters, and your Public Works folks, we know that money's going to be tight, and we're here with the city. We're coming to work. We come to work every day. We want to be here for the city. We want to be here for the citizens. We're not going to let you down. But we just ask that you please look at, when it comes to the budget cycle, that we look back at the merits and understand that once they're taken, that's taken from an employee for the length of their career. That was a contractual agreement with the employee and the city that as long as the employee performed adequately, they would be given that step and be allowed to move up to the next step to one day be at that step 10.
Okay.
That's,
Okay.
I want to thank y'all for your time.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Councilman Williams.
Yeah, Mr. Haluska, I appreciate you being here and speaking on behalf of not only it sounds like the Birmingham Police, but also all the trifecta of public safety, which is Public Works, Birmingham Fire and Rescue, as well as Birmingham Police. I think that we've heard what you said, and we appreciate you being here, and we also appreciate the men and women of all three of those departments, because we know that no matter what is asked of you guys always show up. And so it doesn't matter if there's a pandemic or whatever's going on in the world, you guys show up, and we appreciate all three of y'all, or all three of your groups. Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, thanks. All right, the next one, Councilor Smitherman, you had some UA. Okay, I'm sorry.
Before we move on, so, Mr. President, when are we going to start having the budget hearings? You know,
I think
August will be here before we know it, and I just think the longer we wait, you know, we're not going to really understand what it is we need to do in terms of making the right decisions, in terms of judgment about what we fund and what we don't fund. And I don't want to continue to piecemeal it when we need to look at the overall budget and look at, you know, either we're going to do across the board or we're going to do individually the various departments and the nonprofits or whatever. We just need to sit down and have that conversation. But I just don't want us to do it in a silo as opposed to doing it collectively. I think
yes, sir.
People need to weigh in, and the citizens need to know what the decisions that we would have to make in this pandemic that we are in.
Yes, sir. If you, I don't know if you had a chance yet, but I sent out a draft committee to hold. First item is just to get a discussion of the fiscal year 2021 budget. That it kind of encompasses how do we finish up the year through June 30th, but also start and have the whole conversation around the budget. So that was sent out to you a little while ago, and we can get some dates probably later this week, next week, and then, but it's probably about 17 or 18 items on there that we've been talking about over the last month or so. And so that'll be the first item up is regarding our budget numbers and that kind of thing.
Yeah. And
so I would anticipate
update on all of our finances.
Well, we just put it as the document that was sent out is just a discussion around the 2021 budget. So I think that kind of encompasses everything. But if we need to, you know,
yeah, because I think when we deal with the budget, we need to deal specifically with that item, and not get convoluted with other things. You know, we need a session for specifically the budget.
Well, that's fine. What I did was, like we've done before, I kind of put everything that we had talked about, whether it's stormwater, whether it's the park project updates you'd mentioned, whether it's, you know, getting an update on COVID-19. So I put all of them on there now. We can come back and say, okay, we want 2 or 3 items discussed next Thursday, and here are the items, and then we'll take the rest of them up on the following Thursday. I just wanted to kind of give us, here are all the items. Let's figure out, pick and choose if we need to do 2 or 3, you know, half of them on one day or half of them on another day, but we can go from there. But I just wanted everybody to see the agenda, and in the next day or two, then we can make some final decisions on what's going to be discussed, like on a Wednesday, then we come back on a Thursday and have another budget item, have other items that we've discussed. So I just wanted to kind of put it out there now, and we can go back and forth over the next day or so and make a final decision on which items will be discussed on whatever committee the whole agenda that we have over the next week or two. So, and we need to have a meeting just for the budget. That's fine too.
Well, no, I don't want us to be an alternative. I think it needs to be that. I mean, we've always had those discussions, and listen, we probably in the greatest crisis that we've perhaps experienced, and so that needs to be a full-fledged discussion, and not a if. It needs to happen.
Okay.
You know, the citizens need to know our deliberations on some of these issues.
Okay. All right. Yes, sir. We're gonna make it happen.
That's transparency.
Yes, sir. Well, that's why we've got all the items on there. Councilor Abbott.
Yeah, and I just wanted to mention for Councilor Hoyt and all the council that we always have budget workshops as soon as the mayor gives us the budget, which I understand we should be receiving in the middle of August for 2021, and then we will start having our budget workshops and discuss. In the past, we've had as many as 3 budget workshops so that we can hash things out. Of course, I have a feeling there's not going to be much to hash this year because of the financial issues, but we're going to have our meetings.
Yeah, but Council, we've had meetings prior to that too, so I just want to make sure that we're following the same procedures that we've done in the past.
All right. Here's what we'll do. Everyone's seen the list. Just provide. We'll talk to everybody. I'll talk to everybody over the next day or two. We still have some items where May and June, I know Councilor Smitherman, I think either Councilor Woods and some others had, because the numbers had not gotten in, so we still need to get that report from May/June's numbers because they come in on the 20th of every month. So we'll be expecting that information as well as part of the whole committee of the whole. That because it'll be
we
time.
have the main numbers, not the June yet.
Okay, what I'm saying, well, we now because we'll be past the 20th of the month, we'll be in a position to receive the report for the June numbers, and that's something that you had asked about before a couple of times. So now we should be able to have get a detailed report on the June numbers, and then also have the other conversations Councilor Hoyt has mentioned as well. Okay, so over the next day or two, we will talk and hash it all out and be ready to move forward next week with having committee of the wholes. So everybody can look at the overall agenda and provide some feedback to me, and we'll go from there. Is that okay, Councilor Hoyt?
Yeah, well,
okay.
and let me just say, because the budget committee is entertaining items that it needs to be discussed with the entire council, like transit, like the BJCC, I think BJCTA.
Right.
Those things need to be discussed with all the council and weigh in and make sure that we're making the right decision, and it's not predicated on a committee, but it needs to be hashed out with the council.
Okay. If we need to meet later this week, early next week, within the next day or so, we'll be able to gauge everybody. So I think we're amenable to and flexible. To be able to get reports and have those conversations.
And Councilor Parker,
yes, ma'am.
I may speak. Councilor Abbott and I asked about that yesterday at Budget and Finance. So Councilor Hoyt, this isn't something that's not being spoken about. We asked about certain items, whether this was absolutely necessary for us to buy today or if we can delay it until budget discussions. So I think we're aware of this.
Okay.
Yeah, I just wanted you to know that so you wouldn't think that.
I didn't attend, I didn't see it, I didn't watch, so.
Yeah.
But I want to make sure that we are not jumping the gun and not looking at the totality of the budget, because there might be some things that we can do. And, I just, for all practical purposes, if we don't have a thriving transit system, we don't have a progressive city, quite frankly.
Yeah.
And generally transit is not supported by all these private companies. We need to support what is in place, that we get federal dollars to address transportation needs and what have you. So I just want us to be focused on that.
Okay. Yes, sir. And we'll have some more discussions later today, Councilor Hoyt. Okay. About that issue on the transit, if that's okay. Mm-hmm. Yes, sir. Okay. All right. Second, Councilor Smitherman, you had some students from UAB that had a brief presentation. Mr. Robert.
Yes, I know Robert.
Rosensands, I'm sorry. If I misspoke that. How you doing this morning? You got 3 minutes on your presentation.
Good morning, Council. Thank you.
morning.
It's Robert Rosencrantz, and don't
Rosencrantz,
worry,
I'm
I've been
sorry.
saying
Please
been saying
forgive
it
me.
twice my whole life. It's no big deal.
Please. Good morning. I'm sorry about that.
Good morning, and thank you all again. I have some papers for each of you here. In fact, I'm going to pass them around if I might. I'm here representing more than 100 health students. We call ourselves Health Students for Harm Reduction, and that's in keeping with the first line of the Hippocratic Oath, do no harm. We have a very simple message. We know policing to be harmful, and we know the root causes of health inequity are the same as the root causes of crime. These are the so-called structural determinants. We ask you to consider the proposal we bring before you. It's not as heavy as you think it is. A lot of those pages are signatures. This proposal draws upon serious scholarly labor showing that the answers to crime, poverty, homelessness, mental illness, health inequity are not found in policing. And I believe that you know already where they are found, in community. When I was last here, I spoke in defense of my patient, a black man experiencing mental illness, diabetes, and homelessness. These conditions placed him at risk of policing and its attendant harms. I am certain he is no longer alive, and I cannot defend him anymore. Instead, today I want to speak briefly of myself and of the factors that protected me from policing. Like most Americans, I break the law in small ways every day, but I am not a criminal. No one pulls me over for minor traffic infractions. I know when I enter my car, I will not be detained, as Philando Castile was on 37 different occasions in the year before his murder. As a white person and a foolish teenager, I was detained by police more than once, but I was not made into a criminal. Instead, I am here before you, credentialed, protected, destined for wealth and health. I am by no measure whatsoever better than those who have been diverted down the path of criminalization. Criminalization is a process reserved for the impoverished and the minoritized. But there is a better way forward which affirms human dignity and creates durable public health. It is contained within the proposal before you. This is not an abstract dream. We present data on successful interventions like that proposed by the Birmingham peacemakers in this very city. Crime is not inevitable, and neither is criminalization. Empowering communities, for example, to arrest gun violence before it happens saves the lives of both victims and perpetrators. The foremost expert on mass incarceration in the United States, Bruce Western, notes that everyone in prison is both the perpetrator and the victim of a crime. Rarely are these categories as binary as we might imagine. No one is improved by contact with the criminal legal system. Corrections is the ultimate misnomer. You cannot be corrected by a cage, especially in a pandemic which may take your life. We express our gratitude for the time of City Council, especially Councilor Smitherman, who's met with us once before, in hearing this message. Thank you very much.
Okay, real quick, hold on 1 second. If you could send me your contact information, I'll have some more conversation with you, but I will say just any request, I guess friend requests need to submit this to the mayor's office.
Oh, I have a copy here for him.
Okay, for the mayor, okay, but anyway, but if you could, I don't know, if you could give me your contact information before you leave.
Yes, sir.
Okay, all right, okay.
I had a question.
Councilor Hoyt, real quick.
Yeah, so, and I'm just looking at your document. So, are there any recommendations that you all have with respect to what you presented? Because what you say is absolutely true. And I just remember some 20 some odd years ago, I was listening to, I believe, might have been Ronald Reagan, might have been the president then, and they had a equal justice panel meeting, and there was a white professor with the University of Florida who said that he could go through life and never be reminded that he's white. But a black person, not one day, not 1 hour in the day, that he would not be reminded that he's black. And that's systemic. That's where we are in America, and perhaps even greater now than we ever been. And we know that because now we got cameras, we got different technology that captures all that. And so I'll be interested to see what kind of solutions that you all will have and approaches to this, and it's a pandemic too, you know. So, but if you all could look at that and maybe come back and make another presentation on how do we get there, you know, I think this is a great start.
Well, we'll be happy to come here as often as you're happy to have us.
Okay.
Thank you.
And Councilman Hoyt, there are a list of nonprofits. When I met with these groups, there's about 20 of them, and you would be proud to know that the Dannon Project was there to represent. It's a very good presentation. They're a great, young, smart group of young people my age and a little bit younger. I think they have a lot of good recommendations that the council, I think we should listen to and hear what they have to say. And it's based off of public health statistics and knowledge.
Yeah. Well, and that's a different presentation when you got medical folk who saying that this is a health crisis, quite frankly. And so, but I would be interested to see either through a panel discussion or whatever, I mean, to just kind of see how we need to address these issues as a city.
All right. Here's what we're going to do. I got some thoughts on it. I'll share them with you all afterwards. If you'll make sure before you leave, you write down your contact information, cell number, and all that. I will tell you, there's, for everyone listening, nonprofits, whatever, if you go to birminghamal.gov/nonprofits, that's where you can get the information to fill out budgetary requests to the mayor's office. But anyway, I still need your contact information so we can do follow up. I've got some thoughts on some things, but we'll talk about it in the very, very near future. Yeah, before you leave, you could just give me your contact information and all.
Yes,
if
sir.
you don't mind. Okay.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right.
Mr. President.
Yes, sir. I'm sorry, Mr.
I have a
Hilliard. I'm
question.
sorry, Mr. Hilliard. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Yes, sir, you did. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No problem. Yes, thank you. Thank you for all that you all are doing and the information that you're presenting. And I'm very curious to know, are you all reaching out to your United States senators, your congresspeople, your state representatives, your county commissioners? Are you sharing this information and these same type presentation with them? Because I think on a national level, and because they all have offices in Alabama and around an area, so are you all reaching out to them?
Yes, we're gravely concerned with the risks to the prison population in Alabama state, particularly. There's 40,000 people imprisoned in this state, majority black, and with a testing rate 1/8 of the state average, 1% versus 8%. And of course, black people, when they do make it to parole, are about 3 times less likely to be paroled in the state prison system. So we are gravely, gravely concerned urgently regarding the pandemic and the cost it will enact upon people. We don't believe that every sentence deserves to be a death sentence, and I'm sure that you all agree with that.
Well, while I agree with you, I think that from your government affairs point of view, that you all need to put together a real systemic government plan that allows you to reach out in the members, because you have quite a few members who've signed on to this particular. These letters and all need to be going out to all of your senators, all of your congressmen, all of your state representatives around the entire state of Alabama, because a lot of them have quite a bit of influence on Capitol Hill, and we cannot allow this information not to be gotten to them, and for them to know how serious you all are about your agenda. In just this last election, and we just had quite a few young physicians to be elected or in the primaries to go to Congress. And it'll be great for you to reach out to some of them. I think there's a young guy out of Virginia and a couple others around that served in both administrations, Barack and Republican administration. Yeah. So you should reach out and make very good use of that. I think that would be very wise for you to do. Thank you.
Yes,
all
sir.
Right, real
Thank
quick,
you.
Council Hilliard, what we're going to do, and you'll jot down your information and all real quick. The reason I'm saying that, because there's a lot of things I think as we move forward, Mr. Hilliard and Council Hilliard and others, we will utilize whatever tools we have within our toolbox to help elevate this conversation. If this is part of our state legislative agenda as a council, a city, or federal, so when you're interacting, perhaps we will arrange the meetings for you for the senators, and we will elevate this on our federal legislative. We'll utilize resources of the council through our governmental affairs lobbyists to help elevate this message with you. I just want to have some more conversations with you. If it's going to meet with the governor, we'll go with you. Those are the type of things that I think we will do to help elevate as we move forward. It's okay for you to contact them, but I think we can help put some firepower behind it. But we just need to have some more conversations offline. But I think we're going to be in a good spot with that. So if y'all give us a minute, and we'll come back, and everybody, I think we'll be able to move forward. So with that. All right, we're going to go to old and new. Just give me your information before you leave. Who wants to start off? Council Smitherman for an old and new business.
Yes, thank you. Next Thursday, the mayor and I will be having the District 6 Town Hall meeting. That'll be next Thursday at 5 p.m. on Facebook Live. Thank you.
Council Hilliard, District 9 time.
Yes, Mr. President. I really appreciate this opportunity and time. I think we've been in office, about a year and a half now? I think it's been about a year, about 2 years, really, 2.5 years. But about a year and a half, I brought forth a gentleman by the name of Mr. Poonawalla, which many of you have heard me talk about before the city council, where he opened up his new chicken restaurant, Crispy Crunchy Chicken Restaurant in my district in Ensley, borders Councilman Hoyt's district. He also had a gas station, a package store across the street that him and his wife ran. I guess it's been almost about 8 months ago, someone broke in on Mr. Poonawalla, and they hit him upside the head with a gun. They knocked his wife down, and they robbed him. That was that morning. By that evening, they robbed the chicken restaurant. That was several months ago. No more than a week ago, maybe 2, they broke in, and upon him closing, they killed Mr. Poonawalla, shot him 3 times in his parking lot. And you know, I think about when they broke in on him the first time, he wrote me a very, very desperate letter. I may have sent it out to most of my colleagues, but if I didn't, I'll be glad for you to see it. And he described how they knocked him upside the head with the back of the gun, and he stumbled while he watched his wife scream and holler while they robbed him. And he begged me to get him some help. I then do as we normally do. I forward it along to the mayor, and I ask him to please help me look into it, to please help me get him some help. And of course, the mayor had the chief of police and others to go out and talk and survey, and I guess see what they can do for Mr. Poonawalla, but it just wasn't enough. They took his life. And I think about how we get emails like that all the time. And, you know, I think about Mr. Punawalla when he, his business was affected by COVID and all of this stuff that's going on. And he contacted me once again, and he said he needed help and whatever I could do to help him in his business because, you know, they lost a lot. He had employees and all of that. And we were able to get him through the program that the city had put together. He was so excited. He called me and he said, oh man, I just want to thank you all for helping me. And they took his life. You know, and I recognize that every day that I leave home that I may not come back. I recognize every day that I leave this podium and I may not come back. And I think about, even with police protection, none of that guarantees any of us that we're going to come back. We must find a way, because you can't legislate morality. We've got to find a way to treat each other better, to protect each other, and do everything we possibly can as citizens of Birmingham to make a difference. So all that hears my voice, I beg you to do something, to act as a committee of one. I didn't say go out and create any violence. Maybe maybe all you can do is pray or be nosy and take a picture and send it to the proper authorities. But we have got to do something to curb violence in our community. There's no reason we can point it on any one person, the city council, the mayor, the senators, the state. We can't put it on anybody else. It's our responsibility to make sure that we aren't statistics like Mr. Punawalla. He didn't deserve that. Yes, he was an immigrant, just like most of us are. Yes, he believed in the American dream, but his dream was stolen from him at such a young age. I don't know what it's going to take except to say, when it happens to you or your family or my family, maybe we'll feel the way I feel now. Because I am heartbroken about Mr. Punawalla and his family and all that happens in the black community and throughout our community, period. I say to my staff, because a lot of times they're my first line, and I watch how they got shook up the many times, but this really hit home because we watched and read and listened and went out and cut ribbons and did everything we thought we should do. And it still wasn't enough. But I want the criminals to understand that you will be prosecuted, you will be found, there will be nosy neighbors, there will be people listening. We are watching you, because it's not right that you can snatch a life and think that you should move out and not endure the prison system. It's not enough. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Councilor Hilliard, for sharing your thoughts. And I remember back to Mayor Woodfin's inauguration, and there was a speaker there by the name of Jeff Johnson, and he talked about the concept of a symphony of service. And you are absolutely right, Councilor Hilliard, that we can't put this off on one group. You know, we get calls in our office, as I know you do, every single day about why isn't the city doing this? Why isn't the city doing that? You know, multiple times a day. And the city can only do so much. We have, you know, a little less than 4,000 employees, but we are a city of 212,000. The city government has lots of responsibilities, but we can't be everywhere every moment. I don't care, what people ask for. You are never going to have a police officer, on your front porch 24 hours a day. That's just not reality. You're probably not going to have a police officer on your block 24 hours a day. So, and there's many examples that model could be applied to. So basically, it comes down to, it takes all of us to build a better community. If you do not, there was a former mayor that had a saying that said, you don't have to move to live in a better community. And that is absolutely true. And, we definitely need to be working together. And you're absolutely right, Councilor Hilliard, you don't have to form a nonprofit organization and, spend a whole lot of time, volunteering or community organizing. I firmly believe that simple things can make a huge difference. Something as simple as saying hello to your neighbor, waving to, neighbors you see passing on the street. Those little things are so important to building community, to getting to know who your neighbors are, that's where it all starts. And so don't feel overwhelmed by, these problems. Just think about, what can I do in where I am right now, and think about little things like saying hello, waving to your neighbor, calling up a senior citizen in your neighborhood that is experiencing social isolation, especially now during the pandemic. All those things are really important and add up to making a real difference in our community. I also want to take a moment to talk about where we are as a community in terms of the pandemic. We have more COVID cases now than we have had yet in our community. We've had as many as 26% of the people who are being tested test positive. We have community spread in Birmingham, Alabama, like you wouldn't believe. That's especially concerning as we know that there's a lot of conversation about Birmingham City Schools and the start of the school year. Therefore, we have a education committee meeting scheduled on Monday at noon on Monday, and we are asking Birmingham City Schools to come and speak to the committee to tell us about what they are planning. We are also reaching out to the Jefferson County Department of Health to get their guidance as to what they are recommending in terms of restarting the school year. Previously, we have asked Birmingham City Schools about online learning, internet access, devices to actually, do online learning, and so we will be seeking a follow-up on those issues too. And then I just had one final question. I was contacted by an architect both Friday and on Monday who has some zoning cases that need to move forward. So President Parker, I wanted to ask you, I'm concerned that the Planning and Zoning Committee hasn't been meeting regularly, and it's my understanding that we have over a dozen projects that need to move forward through the committee. And it's some of those projects are getting to the point where those developers are going to experience some delays if the process doesn't move forward. So could you just speak to that, please?
I sure will. And I saw your text yesterday. First of all, I think there's a meeting scheduled tomorrow, by the way, and I think if you realize the project we just voted on earlier was a planning and zoning, where you could see we had multiple meetings to deal with that one particular item because of a time sensitive. And I think we had several zoning hearings that we had on last week. So committee's been meeting. We focused a lot on this one particular project that we passed earlier dealing with the Central Plaza that required multiple meetings, specifically on one project. So I think the committee is functioning. And then also, if you recall, up until June, I think there was pretty much a blanket not to have any zoning meetings. I think that was a letter that was sent from I think the county and also the city as relates to having public zoning meetings. I think that was up until June. So we're moving appropriately, sir. But thank you. Councilor Abbott.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just wanted to say that our next Budget and Finance meeting is July 27th, and I wanted to ask people who are submitting items to be sure that they are complete, because we're going to start sending them back if you have not sent complete information. For our last budget, we had 6 entities who sent in their request with no information on the funding source. Took 6 hours to track everybody down, and we're not doing that again. So I just want to say, if you have an item to submit, you need to get all your ducks in a row and submit complete information so that the Budget and Finance agenda can be put together. And I thank you in advance for doing that. Thank you, Mr. President. Oh, and do you know how many items we have on zoning tomorrow?
We will let you know. We'll send that out in a little while.
Because if it's all 12, it'll be a long meeting.
I don't think it will. It won't be all 12. I don't think it will be all 12. We're having to phase them all in. But like I said before with Dr. Quinn, the primary was to get, I think we met a couple of times on one particular item. And you and I have had some conversations. And so we'll have some tomorrow. We will pick it back up as all the other committees have been doing. So we were on a pause for a minute. So we will address them accordingly. So anyway, and I'll circle back with you later, Councilor Abbott. And we talked about it last week, and we'll work through it. Councilor Hoyt, want to close us out before we go to President Pro Tem?
Yeah, well, thank you. I think I said in this council about 3 or 4 months ago and said to this council, to this mayor, this administration, that COVID was going to get worse before it got better. I said that. And I thought it prudent that we should establish a COVID-19 budget to address those issues. And what I've said to some of the folks that I run into, I said, well, maybe if it comes from me, then it's not taken to heart. But you know, I'm not here for feel-good measures. You know, I'm here to speak truth to power. And here we are in the middle of a crisis with no plan for the city to address these numbers on a daily basis. They're increasing every day. And there's still a population. I think with respect to where we are, we're 30% behind testing. We're not as worse as some of the other states, but we are in a bad place based on statistics and what I've read and what I've heard on the television. And so I'm looking for that to happen. I think we suggested that we should do the ordinance for the covering for, and I said, let's take that to December 31st. And most places are doing that now because it's not going anywhere. And we don't know what the fall is going to bring. And Dr. Quinn, I had to agree with you. I really don't think the education, state education, even have a clue as to how we're going to deal with our children. And I'm going to say this, a damn shame, because we got a lot of kids in school, you know. And I was sharing with Judge Wallace, I think it was yesterday, that we should look at, or they should look at, alternative days. You know, if a classroom consists of 25 to 30 children on a, you know more about that than me, President Pro Tem. But if you have 25 to 30 children, then you might need to alternate that classroom and optimize it to do 15 or 10 so they can have the social distances that they need. And they might not go to that class every day. They might go to that class every other day. You know, there are ways that, you know, but I hadn't heard any of that. This is just my thoughts, thinking out loud in terms of how we deal with that. And let me say that public education is different from private education. There is a distinct dichotomy in that, okay? Because private institutions are going to do what's necessary to protect their children. It's those in public education that's going to be subjected to this COVID and what have you, and no real plan. That's why it's not a great movement, if you will, from the State Department, in my opinion, to deal with that, the education of our children, because mostly in Alabama, most of the public schools are basically African American, black and brown children. And I don't know how we can let that happen. I hope parents really rally around that, and I hope politicians rally around that, because we need answers, and we're not getting them. And even, I think yesterday it said it's the board superintendent, for the state of Alabama, no comments. How you gonna not comment? And we got 2 months where school starts, if not even less than a month. When school starts and you don't have any comment about what we're gonna do to protect our children and teachers, really. I just, you know, it's crazy to me. And Councilor Hilliard, I feel you on the crime issue. And no one person can solve this issue of crime. But I do believe there are indicators. You know, many of our communities are blighted. Unemployment rate is up. In my opinion, the city is nasty. You know, I'm getting more complaints about trash, about overgrown lots, about dilapidated homes. I mean, I've never seen so much. And they texted me, they sending me pictures and all. And even yesterday, Councilor Abbott, I get home, my trash cans are in the middle of my driveway, just boom, in the middle of my driveway. Who do we have working? And this is not the first time. This is many times, but this time I thought to take a picture. And it's ironic that a woman in Thomas had the same complaint. So I don't know who we got working and what have you, but to throw my trash cans, and they bent in the middle of my driveway. So I got to get out of my car, go and move my trash cans to park. Now, I know you don't do that everywhere, but I'm not going to accept that anymore. And so I expect the administration to deal with that and to deal with those persons who work that route. Because when I put my garbage cans out, they got a top on it, and they in bag. No reason why my stuff to be scattered everywhere and folks running over my garbage top and all that. And so, but when you talk about the crime, I'm you know, real sad that gentleman family had to endure that. And we keep saying crime is down, and I'm just saying it's not down. One life is too many, okay? And where we are, and I'll say this, there's been 60 homicides. Now, how you count them is, you know, is to the height of folly, if you ask me. It's still a loss of life. And so I just know that, and I've observed this too, every time we get a report, we say it's down, 2 people get killed within 3 or 4 days. That's not addressing crime. You know, and I think there are some things that we can do. The city, the mayor, the council, and you know, but this place is nasty. You know, I have to come home to nasty every single day on a main thoroughfare, and we got stuff out there that's been out there, and some of it over a year, and they continue to park these big 18-wheelers. But I got to come home to my nice manicured lawn and have to deal with this, and I'm almost embarrassed to invite people to my house. I try to bring them in a different route because it's embarrassing, and so I want the city cleaned up. But anyway, that's all I have, Mr. President. You've been very kind.
Thank you. President Pro Tem Alexander.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just a few comments and remarks from District 7. The Utilities Committee meeting scheduled for Tuesday, July 21st is canceled. We will continue, though, to communicate with our utility and technology entities on any matters or information that is pertinent to the citizens in Birmingham. So if you have any utility issues or technology issues, please contact my office, and we remain in constant contact with those utilities to find a solution to any problems that you're having. In speaking and commenting on what my fellow councilors have said today, I thank each of you for your leadership and what you want to bring to our city. We each operate a little differently. So when we talk about there is a method to the madness. There's a different temperament among all 9 of us. So I just ask that we respect each other when we deal and how we approach to issues that affect all of us here in the city. I also want to thank my colleagues on the Budget and Finance Committee. As has been said, we did have items that came before us yesterday that in some places we didn't even have some of the needed items, such as transparency forms. We had to ask additional questions. So just as we put these items before us, it helps for the 3 of us to consider those items in detail and do our fiduciary responsibility as counselors to ensure the monies and the requests that are being made are decent and in order. And I also want to comment on, as we move forward as a city, we are in, I don't even want to call it a new normal anymore. It's just what's going on in the world today, how we have to operate and how we have to process things. So I just ask us all to remember there are some services, we have employees, there are processes that we do have to continue to consider even during this time as we move forward. In speaking with utilities and giving help to citizens,
I do want to remind everyone that United Way does have a service, and you can call 211, and they help to connect you to any community services. Let's say if you're having problems with your utilities, problems with your mortgage, problems with your rent, you're looking for health services, dial 211 or 1-888-421-1266 to receive resources and to receive guidance on agencies that can help you. We're all in this together. We need to help each other. The East Brownsville Neighborhood Association will be meeting via conference call today at 5:30 p.m. And so if you're a member of the East Brownsville neighborhood, we have a dial-in number and information that is available to you. So as they try to continue the business in their neighborhood, that they can continue with that, even though we can't meet regularly. I also want to just give a birthday wish to a neighbor, Mr. James Carden. He will be celebrating a birthday on July 18th. And the reason that I highlight Mr. Carden, when we get complaints and we get issues that are relevant to our community, Mr. Carden is always the one he's going to call, and he says that, this area needs cutting, this area needs attention. And so I just thank he and other citizens like that. I know we all have citizens that call us and keep us aware of the needs of our community. So I just want to thank Mr. Carden and give him a happy birthday wish. Last week, when we talk about COVID and we talk about our responses to helping our citizens, last week the Bryant Chapel AME Church, they did host a COVID testing site. And so we just have a small video where we want to just show you what happens when they go out and have those sites. And daily we do put on our newsletter from the council about various testing sites within the city. So be aware of those, because I think testing is very important. And before they roll the film, I do want to go back and piggyback on the comments of Councilor Quinn as well as Councilor Hoyt related to the education and what we're going to do to promote education for the coming school year, but also to be sure that the students and the staff are safe. So I thank you all for your comments and the diligence in that. And each family is going to have to make those decisions for themselves, but we want to see what are the options that are coming out of our own education system. So I thank you all for that, and I'm looking forward to the Education Committee and what you're doing for that. So just lastly, we'll roll that video, and I thank you all.
Well, the word says that God didn't give us the spirit of fear. And that's something that has been very prevalent in our communities since this pandemic has started. What we got to do is just be a people of action, not just fear. Fear sometimes causes you to isolate yourself. It causes you to not move in action. It just paralyzes you. This is a situation where we're trying to, like I said, meet a need and just trying to do something forward thinking, doing something proactive instead of always being reactive.
It's a drive-through testing where everyone called in ahead and scheduled. And so a part of the day to promote this is to give out free face masks for anyone that comes out and is tested. And also for anyone that just wants to come by and get a free face mask. It's that important to me that we protect ourselves as we go through and try to fight this pandemic.
I want people to know that this church is always going to be a place that meets the needs of the community. Whatever it may be, whatever we come across. That's one thing I try to teach my people, to not just look at people through their own eyes, but look through God's eyes, because you never know what somebody may need. And if you see a need in the community, let's see if we can do something about it.
Well, and it makes a difference when we are coming to your backyard.
Yes.
You know,
Yes.
it shows that UAB cares about this community.
Yes. I just want to say we're glad to have this opportunity as members of the Birmingham City Council to offer these masks. We want to keep everyone safe. We want to keep everyone aware of what they can do to prevent the spread of COVID-19.
For more from the Birmingham City Council, follow along with us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Stay safe, Birmingham.
Thank you.
Have a great voice.
All right, with that, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay.
All right, thank you all. Be safe.